Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm Jon Meyers. Hey, look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, Jon Meyers. And hey, look, everybody, it's Stephanie L. Jones.
Oh, wow. Wow, what do you keep doing with Emily? She comes on and then she goes away. What are you doing, Stephanie L. Jones?
Seems like there's some, I don't like the word magic, but woo.
No, I don't like the word magic either. Something's happening. What are we talking about today?
Okay, today we have a guest with us today, and it's Tamiko Nesbitt, and she's going to share with us her journey of writing for Guideposts Magazine.
Yeah, I bet you she's quite the guest, isn't she?
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with her and just learn. I mean, I feel like I've been to so many conferences where they talk about guideposts, but I don't think I've really met anybody who writes with them. So it's cool that we have her on the episode.
And it's in, well, we can talk more about that in a second, but I'll just say it now. It's encouraging because they'll take submissions from our viewers who have never been published. They'll as long as the story hits their very specific criteria, they don't care who you are. They'll take your submission.
Well, and I think too, you bring up a good point is like criteria. If you're going to submit, make sure you pay attention to the criteria. And I think sometimes that's half the battle, is we think we know, and we just want to put something out there. And then it's like, no, like, what do they tell you to do? How do they tell you to do it? Sometimes it says, and I'm not talking about Guideposts specific because I don't know what their guidelines are, but sometimes it's like, don't have any attachments. Put it in the body of the email, like this many words.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, pay attention to those things because then your success could go up. So yeah, I'm super excited to talk about her.
What else are we talking about today?
What else are we talking about? How do you get out of your bubble?
Yeah, and what else?
Listener responses.
Yes.
And she will do a call to action for us. We'll have a Hey Jon Meyers, which I am so excited about my Hey Jon Meyers today. I really love it. And then we will do What the Bee, which is my segment.
And I'm ready this time.
I know. Hey, I threw it on you last time though. You did good. You came up with something. And then we will have the final act, which is the game, and I'm in charge of the games.
You are in charge. So how'd you get out of your bubble this week?
I had a couple of coaching clients. A lot of times my coaching clients are not where I live. And so, we're just on phone, we're on video. But this week I had a couple that were actually in town. And so I got to go to their place of business. I got to go to one person's home. So that's one way I got out of my bubble. And then I went to a mental health wellness conference for first responders.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from that?
One of the speakers, I'm going to tear up. Well, one of the speakers was at 9/11. He was a firefighter at 9/11. And so just hearing from him, but my biggest takeaway from him was, this was before 9/11. When he started, he responded to a fire with another firefighter, and the firefighter, up where they were responding, he had a heart attack and he died.
Oh my God.
And tragic, but he talked about how that stayed with him for a long time. And your family's going on. And it was just he never really got over it. And my husband and I had a friend who was killed in the line of duty. My husband and I had been married 6 years, and that was in 2003. And I still feel man, I'm not over it. And I've always thought oh, am I a little crazy or a little... And when he talked about that, that was so refreshing. And all three of the speakers that talked, who were first responders, whether they were a law enforcement or a firefighter, they all had similar experiences where it was they were sitting in something and maybe nobody really talked about it, but then they would say something and I'm oh my gosh, that's how I feel, or that's how I know my husband has been through that. And it just is a reminder, not just first responders, because we don't have first responders on here, but I think it's a reminder as writers and people in general is we're all going through stuff. And a lot of times we think we're the only ones, or we think we're the only ones that think that way. And it's like, no, there is a community, and it's important to talk about things and to share things. And so that was like right in the beginning, and I was like, I got what I came for.
As a former police officer, have you had to watch someone die?
No, praise the Lord that I do not have that with me, and I don't have to carry that. A lot of people that I know, my husband, you know what I mean, like my husband and all of those. So I'm very grateful, because what I have found is it never leaves them. It is something that is always there, whether they knew the person or not. And that is, if you think about, that day was on mental wellness and trauma. Yeah. So
My pastor he had to go from this undisclosed location to a bigger city about 2 hours away, and goes through Starbucks drive-through to start the trip, and got upset that they were taking. He had to get somewhere in 2 hours, and so he and his wife, and he's aggravated that he's being delayed in this drive-through for 20 minutes, and halfway through on the trip, this truck in front of him, a semi truck, flipped over, and he was right there for it, which he wouldn't have been had he not been delayed at Starbucks. And he goes and it starts to catch on fire, so he pulls the truck driver out of the truck, and the guy dies in his arms.
wow.
And when he tells that story, it's so powerful. And then, he was the first one on the scene, so then this wasn't his town, but then the police officers used him to go inform the family, and because he was like, I was there for it,
Right.
and they really appreciated that he was there. And then he went on his way to wherever to perform whatever wedding or whatever he was going to perform. I guess it's I was gonna say that's part of your line of duty when you're a police officer, but you don't think about it but I guess it is as a pastor as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, they wouldn't have asked, if he wouldn't have been a pastor, they probably wouldn't have asked him to go to a home. I mean, you wouldn't have asked somebody to do that.
But you think about a pastor visiting someone in the hospital and they die, not someone like where the truck flies up in the air right in front of you.
Yeah, and then you just think of like what God did to orchestrate that, right time, right place, all of that. And it's why I don't want to say never, but rarely now, like when I'm delayed or if something happens, it's just like, okay, God has a reason. I'm going to sit here and be patient, and whether it's for you to be somewhere at the right time, or whether it's for you to prevent you from not being somewhere, and that's when you just have to trust and have faith. But I mean, what a gift though that he was able to give the family, and to be the one that was there.
And I'm exactly the same way. So when I get delayed, I'm like, oh, cool. I think it's going to be something good's going to happen, which it might not be. It might be the truck flipping over. But I think, why am I getting delayed? So I don't get mad. I'm like, oh, this is cool. However, I don't like to wait in line, like at a food truck or something. That's a delay. But I'm okay with it in a drive-through, but standing in line, that's boring. Then I get to where I'm going, and what if nothing happens? And I'm like, yeah, I was prevented from being in an accident or something. But
Yeah.
I like to see the thing that I.
We don't always get to see. How did you get out of your bubble this week?
So I went on my stupid walk, #stupid walk. Do you know that's what I call it?
Yes.
I don't like my walk. It's so, speaking of
You need
boring.
to change your attitude. I am grateful I get to walk.
That's true, because there are many people that can't walk.
It's going to come up in my what the bee. So this is perfect.
Oh,
Jon Meyers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's 4 different directions I can walk, and we've talked about the pluses and minuses of each direction in the past. So my second favorite direction that I can walk, there's a Speedway convenience store, which you I can't say where you're in your undisclosed location. You have Family Expresses, and on
Yeah.
a previous episode, I extolled the virtues of the cleanliness of Family Expresses. They still have the little blue papers to open the doors. They think they're still in the pandemic, and I love it because I'm a germaphobe. And there's little signs on the make sure you use the blue paper to press the buttons on the pop machine and on the coffee machines, and they're so clean and everyone's so friendly. Is that
Family Expresses, I love them. You know, it's like there's a lot of other places around. If I can go to one, I will. And
and they
the
have square
owner,
donuts.
yeah, and they have square donuts, and I really like the owner, and they're really philanthropic. This is a total like side note, but my godson, he loves Family Express car washes.
Yeah.
And they did like let him do like a car wash type birthday theme, and they were so like loved being involved in it that we want to like put it in a book because of how like kind they were, and got involved because he loves their car washes.
So do you know the owner?
I've met the owner. I wouldn't say I know him personally, but I've met them at events.
Is he a germaphobe like I am?
I don't know. Maybe I'll ask him next time.
I would think that he is. So next time you see him, ask him. So I'm on my stupid walk, and I can go in a Speedway and get a milkshake. No, that defeats the purpose of the walk, doesn't it? So I go in a Speedway to get a gift card, and because you get points when you go in Speedway to get to buy a gift card. And there was this lady who was, she was like refinancing her house or something in line in front of me. Talk about waiting in line. And no, because it was the Powerball thing. Oh, and it was 167.5 million. We don't believe in gambling at Right Better Together. I don't do that. I don't play the lottery. I'm not going to judge anybody that does, but we don't approve. And and she was like her life savings or something, right? And so the winner, this is not my undisclosed location, the winner was from Georgetown, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
And it's a town of 35,000 people. And so they announced when we're recording this on Monday, they announced who it was, but all weekend, Georgetown, Kentucky has like 35,000 people, 39,000 people or something like that. Yeah, not a lot. And your town, it's about the same as your town.
Yeah, I was gonna say very similar.
And a very similar size, where my town's like 3 times bigger. So the question that I want, so they wouldn't say who it was. Well, it's in a town that size. They're all like, hey, is it that person? Hey, is it that person? Like which, like everybody knows each other. Which, would that happen in your town?
I don't feel like it. If
it's too big.
Yeah,
35 is too big.
I think 35. I think it's too big. I mean, maybe this town that I grew up in, which is like, I don't know, maybe it was like 3,000 when I was growing up, and everybody seemed to know everybody. But here, I don't feel like, it's more like cliquish. You kind of have your little group or your whatever. I don't know. I don't feel like it would be.
Well, that was $167.5 million at Clark's Stop and Shop. That's where it was sold. They get like 6% of it just for selling the ticket, and so that'll help that small. They're kind of like, they're regional, like Family Express.
Yeah.
So then the last question I have for you, and then we'll move on. If it was someone all weekend, it was your neighbor, right? There was some guy that now you know who it is, but it was some guy. Like, would you be able to keep that secret all weekend?
Yeah, I would.
And no one would know other than your husband?
Yeah.
Because he had to wait till Monday to call the lawyer and the finance guys and all that.
Right. Yeah.
You would, and no one would know?
Yeah.
How?
Just keep it secret.
Okay.
I think I went all my ducks in a row.
Well, yeah, that's what he had to wait till Monday to do, but...
Yeah. Would you?
I think I would. No, I don't think I would. Now, I can keep someone else's secret forever. And then here's the thing. When you turn in your ticket, in the state of Kentucky, they have to... There isn't anonymous. Some states
have
are anonymous.
to?
They have to say who it is. That's why they announced who it was this morning. So as a police officer, why is that? I know you're not a lawyer or a court of law, but why do
Yeah.
some states you have to announce it and other states you don't?
I don't know. I haven't researched that. And I don't know if that has anything to do with like criminal law or anything. I
Well,
wouldn't want people to know.
well, I wouldn't either. I also couldn't keep it secret. I would tell my brothers and my family, and
I would slide a contract to the people that I wanted them to know.
an NDA.
Yeah. They're not allowed to disclose. This is the money you get or whatever you get, but you're not allowed to talk about it.
And then what could possibly be the reason why you have to disclose it? Like, if you bought that ticket in Kentucky, you don't have the choice. You have to disclose it.
Yeah, I don't know why. We'd have to research that.
All right, listeners, viewers, tell us why. What could that reason be? Like, we can't have any secret millionaires.
I don't know why. I don't know what that would be. I don't know either. The reasoning behind it.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, what's next?
You got listener responses?
I do.
Ooh, yay.
I have one that I'm going to read, and then if one comes up organically, I will use that one as well. If not, then I will save it for a future episode. This is from Jeanice Birch, by the way, frequent call to actioner. Jeanice Birch. Jeanice responds to, bless you. This is important. This is nothing to sneeze at, Stephanie L. Jones.
Excuse me.
Jeanice is responding to episode 56 when Emily's Hey Jon Meyers was about teaching your kids sign language. And she was responding to that. Regarding episode 56, we taught our kids basic sign language when they were babies so they could communicate without having to scream, and it worked out great. Now our granddaughter is learning even more signs from her aunt, who earned a minor in deaf studies. At 14 months, our granddaughter recently signed, "More strawberries, please eat." That's pretty good at 14 months, man.
I love that. I love that.
No, she also knows the signs for banana, thank you, all done, and picks up more signs quite easily. It is great to be able to communicate with her when she is not yet able to communicate clearly with her spoken words. Her aunt also told us that besides actual ASL, many deaf families have home signs, which are particular to each family, when what we might call our own slang. Isn't language great? Side note, since ASL is its own separate language with its own grammar, it isn't always easy for a deaf person to read English. This includes the Bible. But a group from the deaf community recently made a movie about the gospel titled "Jesus and Everyone Involved in the Project is Deaf." The movie is acted using ASL with English subtitles, and is quite powerful. Here's a link if anyone wants to check it out. So we'll put the link in the show notes.
Oh, that's
so it's
cool.
An ASL movie, and for people that can't read regular English, or for anybody really.
Wow, I love that.
What do you know about that topic as a former police officer?
The only thing I know is we had to learn sign language in the police academy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you know it.
I only know the alphabet. So we learned the alphabet so you could like spell stuff out, but I've lost most of it because that was 20 years, or when I was in the first police academy, it was like 20 years ago. So
I don't know any sign language, but I judge, and I still do, at college. I used to judge at high school debate and speech tournaments as well, but I still judge at college ones when they ask me.
Oh, that's cool.
And there was an event where it was like dramatic interp. I think it was original interp, where you write a 7 to 10 minute thing and you perform it. So this was a college student who his major was ASL in college, and the performance piece that he wrote was, they wouldn't let the very tournament that he was in wouldn't let him use ASL in the tournament. and the
Why?
organization that runs the tournament. They said it gave him an unfair advantage. And that I actually wrote him afterwards, and I can't divulge where he ranked in the thing, but I wrote him afterwards and tried to get him to come speak at our university, because it was amazing. He like took on the people that were trying to ban him from the event, the national circuit. He used it in such a powerful way. He could speak, but he used it to highlight things. And then there were times where he would only sign, right? So let's say he'd go from speaking and signing with it, and then he would stop and then just sign for like 45 seconds. And that silence was so powerful, and it underscored how those people were being, I hate othering people, but how those people were being silenced. And it was just so powerful. That's my experience with it. And can you imagine a 14-month-old baby having that power?
I know. No. So we have quite the guest today, Jon
Yes.
Meyers. We have, as I mentioned at the start, Tamiko Nesbitt, and she lives in Oklahoma City with her husband, Johnny. And she's a freelance writer who has won awards for her poetry, for her flash fiction, and also another short story. And she has a book that I know she's going to share with us. So I'm not going to dive into it because I think the story is probably better her telling it than us. So I'm excited to hear about her writing. And it's a children's book series that she has that she'll share with us. So
children's books, guideposts, the specific division of guideposts, that she's just amazing.
yeah.
I think she's fantastic. Let's watch. And we're back. Hey, look, everybody. It's still Stephanie L. Jones. Who's this other person? Where'd she come from?
Well, we have quite the guest today.
Yes.
Tamiko Nesbitt.
I know her. You don't know her, Stephanie
I
L.
just
Jones.
met her, but she's fabulous. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Tamiko,
Thank you.
when I met Tamiko, she was this timid little shy, is my stuff good enough to submit? That was her. Do you remember that, Tamiko?
Yes, still is.
No, you are not.
Yes.
You are not. You are the emboldened, empowered Tamiko. I saw you get awards.
Yay!
I saw you. I was in the audience applauding for you as you got
Thank
awards.
you.
And also, you were kind enough. So Emily and I had at WriterCon last year had a tea. We called it Tea and Sympathy, because people go to listen to the speakers. And so we had this little session at 8:00 in the morning. We tried to do it out by the pool. We just had our own tea, our morning tea. But then it was rainy, so we moved it inside. We commandeered a little foyer all to ourselves. We called it Tea and Sympathy, where we could just listen to them. Because you go to a conference and you got to listen to speaker after speaker after speaker. So we wanted to listen to the people that came there, and we had a good turnout. But I bought way too many donuts, and Emily doesn't eat donuts, and so Tamiko was kind enough to take half the extra donuts off my hand.
Wow.
Weren't they good?
They were delish.
Don't you remember? Do you remember where they came? Where they come? Do you remember?
Sugar Llama.
Sugar Llama. Hey, Sugar Llama, you need to sponsor us. They were so good. And and they had some crazy flavors, and those were the half I took, because I liked all the crazy flavor ones. Emily doesn't eat donuts. Do you eat donuts?
Oh
my goodness, you're a former police officer. Of course you eat donuts.
How funny.
What was I thinking? All right, enough about the donuts. And so I talked to, that was, I don't know, what was that, 7 months ago, 6 months ago? I talked to Tamiko about coming on the show, and she said yes, but I'm so scared. And now, show us your hands. Are you calm now?
They're calming down a little bit. Thank you.
All right. And since then, the first thing I want to talk about is you submitted to Guideposts, just like, hey, here's a submission to Guideposts Magazine, and they said, we want you for more than just this one random submission. Tell us about tell us that whole process, what happened.
That was a blessing. I have one of my friends, she writes for Guidepost. And I was talking to her about taking care of my dad, and she said, I think that you would be great for Guidepost. And and I was already familiar with the Strength and Grace devotionals, which is the ones that I write for. I was already familiar with them because when we were at WriterCon, I sat at the table with Kimberly Elkins, who's the lead editor. So I didn't think about it at the time, possibly writing for them, but I was talking to my friend and she said, I think you'd be great for Guideposts for the Strength and Grace devotionals. And I said, do you really think so? And she said, yeah, I think you can bring a fresh perspective to caregiving. So she contacted the editor, and the editor told me to send 3 devotionals in. And I typed them and sent them and didn't think that they would be good enough. I'd read several of the devotionals from a previous Strength and Grace, and I knew the type of writer my friend was, and she's a really good writer. And I'm thinking they're not going to choose my devotionals, but I'll just submit for the sake of it. So I submitted 3 of them, and they bought all 3. And I received an email, and it's about to make me tear up now, because I received an email which said that we want you to be an ongoing contributor for our Strength and Grace devotional series. So that's how that all came about, and I'm so grateful to be able to share the experiences that I had. I wrote both about my mom and my dad, because I cared for both of them along with my sister, and it was a privilege to do that. But it was also difficult to see my parents in the state that they were. But to be able to share that information and help encourage someone else who's going through those similar or same type of situations is an awesome blessing.
Do you now do you believe that you're good enough?
I believe that. No, I don't.
Oh my goodness.
Well, no, and I say that because of the fact that as writers, do you ever get to the place where you say I'm good enough? So that's where I'm at. I believe that I do have a talent for writing, that I do believe. But do I believe that I'm good enough for someone to say, okay, well, Tamiko's written something, and someone else says, oh, I think I'll run down and buy it? I haven't arrived there, especially being a new writer.
You are wrong. I never tell guests they're wrong. I'm going to tell you you're wrong, because you belong at the table. They know what they're doing. Were you there 2 years ago? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I went to both sessions. I'm going to let Stephanie talk in a second. And so they were you at both sessions 2 years ago?
I went.
The Guidepost did?
No.
Okay.
I was at the first guide. Well, last year was my first session, with Guideposts. Okay. That was my very first time.
So 2 years ago, I went to both sessions. They had a morning session one day, and it was just the general submissions, guidelines. This is the kind of things we look for. These are the kind of stories we do. They took some questions at the end, and it was very, very formal and very welcoming. And we encourage you to submit, but just don't get your hopes up. And this is my version of it, because it's a specific magazine for a specific audience, and there are specific kind of stories that fit in Guideposts. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the second one, and he didn't get to everybody, so he didn't get to mine. You did a submission, just like a paragraph for the type of story. And he called the people out, and we're like, nope, rejection, nope, rejection, nope, rejection. Yep, this one would be great. And then he would explain why it was great. And the ones that were rejected, it wasn't really on the quality of the writing, or if it was, he didn't say that. It was you're close, you're in the right zip code of what we do, but you're not on the right exact driveway. You're not in the right address. You're close, and then that would help them to steer it closer to what they were looking for. So my point is, it's not an easy feat. And not only did you get in, you got invited to be an ongoing to provide ongoing submissions. You belong at the table.
Well,
This
thank
isn't
you.
like they threw a dart at the dartboard, and they're very in a good way particular about who they accept. So you belong there. Say it. I want to
Thank
hear
you,
you say it.
Don.
Say you
Thank
belong
you.
there.
I
Say it.
belong there. Thank
There
you.
you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, I'm done berating poor Tamiko.
No, I just wanted Tamiko, for our audience, like if they don't know what Guidepost is, like maybe share a little bit about what Guidepost is and like what you're writing for them, because it sounds like you're writing a very specific devotional that they have.
Yeah.
And then if you've expanded into another area, they said, hey, you can be a contributor, like a consistent contributor. Is that in the same devotional or is that different? So just so our audience knows a little bit about it.
Okay, so Guideposts is an inspirational magazine. They have individual contributors who write stories to encourage people, to give people hope, to inspire people. For those who don't always have someone, and I don't want to say always, for those who might not have anyone to encourage or inspire them. With regards to not just our human experience, but an elevated spiritual experience. That's what Guidepost does. It encourages the readers. They have a devotional on angels, where people write stories about experiences they might have had with angels. They have a segment for pet owners to write about their pets. They have the Strength and Grace, which is for the caregivers. And I believe there are two other that slip my mind at this time, but it's really a magazine that's geared towards inspirational type stories. So again, with the Strength and Grace, that's for caregivers, written by caregivers. And we encourage people so that they know that they're not alone in whatever journey they might be facing. And there are so many wonderful stories in that magazine. I absolutely love it. Did you also ask about whether or not I've expanded my writing? If you don't mind.
Like, are you still writing just for the Strength and Grace and on
Yes.
caregivers, or are you writing anywhere else within Guidepost?
I'm just writing for the Strength and Grace right now, but I'm going to do some submissions to the main Guidepost magazine, which it has a lot of celebrities in it, but they do have individual writers as well. So I'm going to expand there, but I have some other places that I'm prayerful about submitting my works to. I'm doing a lot of poetry writing now as well, so I'm trying to expand my portfolio with regards to what I'm doing, but I would love to write for some of the other Guidepost magazines or devotionals.
I love that. And what is giving you, because it seems like you had like a little lack of faith in your own writing, and Jon Meyers is like, no, you deserve to be at the table, that you're like, okay, I can, like, why is the time now for you to expand? Did you have anything specific happen, or?
I think validation is extremely important. I've actually been writing for years, but I just never felt as though I was good enough to have anyone read what I had written. I've always told stories. I have a lady I used to work with, and whenever I'd see her, I'd talk to her about different things, and she said, "You always have a story every time I talk to you." And that kind of resonated with me because I do. There are so many wonderful things that happen in our lives. So I would always have a story, and more times than not, they'd be a positive one. And she said, "You always have a story." And again, I do. So I have notebooks that I've written down that are full of different things that I've experienced and I've thought about. And within the past, I'll say within the past year, and it's really WriterCon that's given me the confidence. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. When you're in the midst of wonderful writers like Jon, Emily, Laurel, Renee, Bill, you have these people telling you that you're a good writer. It gives you confidence, but it does not go to my head.
So when I'm going to interrupt. When you say that you're not, right?
Mhm.
Like earlier in this episode, that almost robs the person that's telling you that you are. Like William has 60 books under his belt, right? He doesn't know. He knows. The people at the Guideposts, they know. And so you can't rob them of them telling you that you're good at what you do, because then it's like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about.
That's
well, yes,
true.
they do.
I've never
They
thought
most
about
certainly
it.
do.
Yes, I've never thought about it from that perspective. So thank you so much. But WriterCon is where I really got a lot of my confidence. And then the fact that Kimberly Elkins says, we want you as a contributor. I feel as though I do have something to offer. I do. So thank you all.
I want some credit for your success. Put me in there somewhere.
You're in there. Thank you.
My donuts. The donuts I gave you. What were the awards you won that I saw you win? Tell the people what they were.
I won at WriterCon. I won unpublished poetry award for my poem, which was called A Box Filled with Broken Crayons Speaks. And also I won the runner-up for flash fiction. And that was based on a story that I wrote for teachers for a contest. It was called Flash Fiction story was called You Work, You Win. So basically with that story, you have a teacher who's telling her children, regardless of what you face in life, if you work, you will win. There's no way that you can lose because you've put in the work, you've put in the time. With the Box Full of Broken Crayons Speaks, that's more kind of like a spiritual poem in which you have this Crayola box, which is protecting these broken crayons that nobody wants. They've been separated from the ones that are whole, and they've been put into their own little world, which is within her box. And she's telling them that they do have use. Their reds are still red. They may be broken, but the reds still color reds and the blues still color blues, and they can color or create any canvas that a whole Crayola can. So that was the basis for that poem. And I really love that. I wrote that during Mental Health Month because I work in the mental health industry. So that's just to give people hope, to let them know, regardless of what state you're in, you're still valuable. You still have use.
So at WriterCon, there's 60 sessions. Last year, Emily and I were 8 of them, and that was a record. And I'm not counting our tea that we had. Do you? And I'll ask Stephanie too. Do you go from wall to wall? Are you every session? There's always 4 to pick from. Are you always at one or the other?
Yes.
And then when you go speak, do you go to the other sessions that you can, Stephanie?
Yeah, typically I will, unless I'm like have to be at my table, or I can think of one recently where I went to the sessions that I could, but a lot of times it's like if I'm out at my table and somebody's talking to me or whatever, I want to respect that person, and so I'm not like, oh wait, I'm gonna go listen to, so it just depends. But I attend writer conferences myself where I'm not a speaker, and I'm big on getting as much information. It's like you pay to be there, so like go get the education, and you just never know the little snippets that you're going to take away, or somebody that you're going to meet, or whatever. So yeah,
there are people, and this is not a criticism, but there are people who fly in, they speak at 3:00 on Friday, and they fly out. Well, that's like, I would never get to meet all the other people. And were you there when I filled the grand ballroom, Tamiko? Were you there?
I don't think I was. No, I wasn't.
was going to use that for an example to ask you a question. That was such an amazing crowd, and when almost 300 people or however many there were are laughing at your jokes, and they were really engaged, and I'm getting to a point of that. You know where the grand ballroom is because that's where you got your awards. How did that feel when everyone applauded? You got some really loud applause. How did that feel? Because I know being in that room when everyone laughs at your joke, it feels really good. How did that feel?
It felt amazing. Unlike anything that I felt, and it was so amazing because you have people in that room who are bona fide writers. They are
So
speakers.
are you. You did not. You felt amazing. You did not go, I don't deserve this applause. Please stop applauding for me.
Yeah,
You
I
you
got
get
up like
paid to write. Admit it. You get paid to write.
I do, but I'm just saying that feeling because you have to think at that time, Guideposts, I was not a contributor. This is
That's
just
true.
this is just the second conference that I've ever attended, writers conference I've ever attended. So to meet those people, and you have people who were speaking, you have people who were selling books, who've written books that you've met, and to hear those people clapping for me. And I'm thinking at the time, who am I? I'm nobody. I'm just somebody here trying to learn. And you have those people clapping for you. And then Bill yells, I want to publish your poem. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
going on? This is, yeah,
I remember that.
yeah. It's still hard for me to fathom,
Well,
but
get
grateful.
over it.
I'm so grateful for WriterCon. I can't tell you how grateful I am for them, for everybody at WriterCon, for you, for Emily, for your encouragement. Yeah, it's special.
It sounds like, and I've seen this before, is the importance of like stepping outside of your comfort zone and like going to a writer's conference. And Mike, did you go by yourself or did you go with a group of people that you knew?
I went by myself, but
Okay,
I
so
knew
how was that of like going by yourself to a big conference where you didn't know anybody?
it was awesome because the year before I had met so many different people who were so kind. Even, and I know you asked about last year, even my first year, they don't allow you to be a stranger. Everybody gravitates towards you. They're trying to help you get the most out of that experience, especially as a first time or second time. Excuse me, I knew people, so that worked in my favor. People were inviting me to go to sessions with them, asking me if I was going to a session, and I'd say yes, and we get to talk, and I say, well, I think I want to go to the session you're going to, or they come with me. So you're not alone at WriterCon, and like they say, it's a village, it's a tribe. It's really what we say, but you have a village of people who are trying to help you become the best that you can possibly be. So it's a wonderful experience, and that's my form of self-care now. That's my annual
Yeah,
form of self-care. I will go every year.
I love
I
that.
love that because I think so many times, like, people talk themselves out of going to a writer's conference. And I haven't been to WriterCon, but I've been to a lot of other ones. And they're very similar in that if you go alone, you will meet people,
That's right.
you'll,
That's right.
but I think sometimes we so get in our heads of like making all these excuses of why we can't go and because we're going to be alone and we're not going to meet anybody. But it's like, look at the gifts that you've been given
Oh
because you
my
just
God.
showed up.
Yes.
And you took that step of faith, you showed up, you invested time, money, and then here you are today. So
Yes. Fantastic.
And people that are self-declared introverts, I wrote an article about this for WriterCon magazine. Conferences need introverts. And
Yeah.
that you wouldn't want to go to a conference with it's 100% extroverts. You wouldn't want to even go to it. But introverts play an important role. Even standing outside, you go to a session, you stand out, you come
That's right.
outside, and 8 people congregate outside the session. The quieter people are the introspective people, the people that aren't talking about themselves, are necessary and can learn a lot as well. But head nodders and someone that says one sentence in 20 minutes in a congregation of 8 people can often be the most insightful sentence in
Yeah,
that 20-minute conversation.
I would agree.
That's you, Tamiko.
Bless you. Bless you.
You and everyone does recognize you as a storyteller. You do always have a story, so that was very true. And speaking of stories, this is the first, I don't even know, have we had a children's author on before? There's 2 people. I have 2 children's authors here now. We've never had 2
Oh,
before.
awesome.
If we had 1, well, we've had Stephanie on before. But talk about the idea, like when you knew you had, first of all, you had the idea for your children's book, but then when you knew it had to be a book where a kid could hold it in their hand. And then I want to hear the same answer from Stephanie.
I knew when I started writing the book that it was a book that needed to be in a child's hands because it was something I prayed about. Just because of the society we live in, children don't always see hopeful things. They don't always see teachable type books that teach us how to treat our fellow man. And I had prayed to God to give me something, and I didn't know it was going to be a book. I prayed to him to give me some area where I could help children learn to live and love like Christ. And my husband and I, we were watching a nature show, and the Lord put in my spirit, use animals to teach children about the fruit of the Spirit. So I knew well before I had even written the stories that what was going to be produced as a result of what he told me to do, I knew that it had to be put out just because of the times. With my book, it's actually a book series based upon each attribute of the fruit of the Spirit. So it'll be a 9-volume series, each book devoted to one attribute, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So 7 of those books are completed. Only 1 has been released, but the second will be released in May. But anyway, I knew from the very beginning it had to be shared.
So the first one is Love. That's the parrot. What's the actual name of the book?
It's the book series is called God's Friend Scarlet Teaches About, and it's each one of those individual attributes. So Scarlet is a Scarlet Macaw parrot. That's how she got her name. So she is like an evangelical character which flies to different continents teaching specific animals a specific attribute that they may be lacking.
And the first one was Love.
The first was Love, and it takes place in Tamil Nadu, India. So she's teaching a leopard the meaning of love.
I want to know, you haven't written it yet if you're writing them in order. I want to know what animal needs self-control. That's what I want to know.
That I haven't gotten to. But self-control is the 9th one.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far along yet. I have 2 more that I still need to write and that I'm meditating on.
Did you pick the location first, then the animal, or the animal dictated the location?
Yeah.
The location dictated the animals that I chose. And the animals are specific to whatever region. So Tamil Nadu, all of those animals in that book are animals that you would find in India around that region of Tamil Nadu.
And then how did you pick the locations?
That was just, I would look up, well, I had specific backgrounds, and I don't want to say backgrounds. Let me say it like this. For India, I knew that I wanted to be in a forest because when I was watching the nature show, they had a forest in India that looked exactly like what I wanted for my story. I don't remember where it was, but I had Googled forest in India and Tamil Nadu came up. So the description of what I wanted fit that perfectly. I really do believe that these books are God led because some of the stuff I'm still saying, wow, because it's not something that I came up with on my own. It's something that I prayed for. And I believe that the Lord has answered my prayer with these books. But yeah, every continent, and we know there are 7 continents, so 2 of the continents will have to be visited twice because there are 9 attributes. But with each book, like I said, the animals and the animals' names are specific to that continent and to the region that the story takes place.
So 7 continents. The 2 will have to be revisited twice.
Yes, 2 will be revisited twice. Again, the names and the animals are specific to whatever region or whatever continent that story takes place. And the only consistent about the stories will be God, Jesus, and Scarlet, the Scarlet Macaw, because God is giving Scarlet the command to fly to these different continents and teach on a specific attribute.
I love when Holy Spirit uses Google to direct you, to tell you which the locations at each continent.
I want to comment that you said earlier is you didn't even know it was going to be a book, and it's a perfect example. And I'm so fired up. I always say like women, but really anybody is like, I think God has a calling on everybody's life.
That's right.
But it's like you pray about something and then it comes up and you're like, I don't have experience in that, or, oh, that seems crazy. And then you never do anything with it. Like there's just, I always say like these big callings I think that God has for people. And what I love about you is like, you just saw it as a blank canvas. You prayed, and then like you just kept taking the step, one step at a time. You didn't say, oh, it's going to be this. And, it's like, nope, it's going to be a children's book. And then you got the idea, like you see the nature show and you took the next step. And that's what faith looks like. But a lot of us don't get that, you know? And so tell me about, like, did you have any doubt, or were you just like, nope, I know this is God led, I'm taking this next step. This is God led, I'm taking this next step. Like, what did that look like? Because I'm always so fascinated when I meet with somebody who is like just letting the Holy Spirit guide them.
You know what? I knew that it was God led when I was trying to force the story and write it myself, and it just wasn't happening for me. For whatever reason, the story was not coming together. And my husband told me, he said, you need to let God do what he's going to do with the story. Stop forcing it. He said, continue to be prayerful and he'll lead you. And this is the honest truth. One night, and this is probably maybe a year or so after I had written the final story that I was content with, I kept writing stories and they just weren't making sense to me. And one night, and this is true, about 3:00 in the morning, and I know it was nobody but the Lord who woke me up, and I wrote a complete draft of that story that I was content with. I was happy with it. It wasn't the final one, but I had enough information, the story flowed. And I remember that next morning, I let my husband read it. And he said, this is it. He said, you're going somewhere with this. You need to do a little bit more work on this. He said, but this is going to be a good story. And I asked my husband, because he's a good writer. But he does it more so to teach. He was a Sunday school teacher, but he said, this is going someplace and this is beautiful. So really for me, The faith came in when I saw that it was not me trying to do it myself wasn't working. I was trying to force a story about God without having God lead me on it, if that makes sense.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Stephanie, tell us your when it needed to become a book.
Oh, yeah. So I had been writing nonfiction and had didn't think I was ever going to write a children's book. And I can't remember the like exact moment, but Tamiko, and I'm known as the giving gal, and
Okay.
I even had like some marketing experts say, no, you can't use that. Like you're too old, it's too childish. But I knew God had given me that name and to use it. And
That's
I
right.
have a generic name, which is even why I use the L. I could see this little character in my head, giving gal, and
I love
very
that.
similar to you. Like she's kind and she's patient, even though it's not a faith-based book, so it could go into schools.
Mm-hmm.
She does have the gifts of the fruit of the spirit. You know what I mean? Like you can
Wonderful.
see that in the book. The first story that I wrote, I was kayaking with my husband, and he was fishing, and I was just kind of floating around, and it was like, got the idea, wrote it on my phone. Now the cool thing is I thought that I was like, this is a pretty good little book. I didn't know what I didn't know. And then when I ended up hiring my editor, Michelle Medlock Adams, who's written like 100 books, and I met her at a writer's conference, she's like, you can't give like the character her nickname, because she's like, her nickname is Giving Gal. You have to give her another name and have someone else give her that name. You need to go back and rewrite the story. And like that was such good feedback. So I rewrote the whole story, and it was just the importance of like doing the work and then be willing to take feedback, and especially from experts, and to see what God is, I just had that one book, and then I wrote a second book and a third, but I did have this similar experience as you on the fourth book. My friend had given me an idea like on a Friday night or something like that. And I woke up the next morning, like 6 a.m., pulled out my phone and wrote the whole thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I messaged her and she was mad. She's like, I thought we were supposed to write this together. And I'm like, I felt like God gave me the story. I had to get it out.
Yes. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
So, do you have a call to action for our viewers?
Yes.
Tamiko Nesbitt, don't sound so hesitant. Say, yes, I do.
I do.
Do I ever?
No, I'm saying that because I like what I like having the opportunity to give this call to action, which
Awesome.
is to show love to someone without any expectation of anything in return. So whatever that act may be for you, show someone love and don't expect anything in return.
You don't know this, but we're going to do a future episode at some point about expectations. The seed was already planted, but you just watered that seed. Tamiko, it is all you. And how do people get that to us, Stephanie L. Jones?
Yes, well, they can comment in the show notes below. Yes. They can comment on YouTube in the comments, or they can comment on Facebook in the comments. Yep. And our Facebook is different. Everything else is Write Better Together, but our Facebook is Write Better Together Now.
Correct.
Wonderful.
Very, very good. Thank you so much, Tamiko.
Thank you.
I didn't realize how much I missed talking to you until you were here.
You're so awesome, John. Thank you.
No, you're awesome. And so I will see you in September, right?
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Bye. You all take care. It's nice to meet you, Stephanie.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. Blessings to you all.
So wow, that was wow.
Wow, we're talking.
That was so amazing that we both want to talk at the same time. Go ahead.
I really loved Tamiko. That was the first time for me meeting her, And she has such a humble spirit about her. And I haven't read any of her articles or her writing. So this interview made me want to go read, especially her poetry, which I didn't get to ask her just because we went, different directions. But I wanted to ask her, like, what inspired her poetry. So I'm excited to go read the two that she mentioned, and then to pick up her children's book. So yeah, I love talking with her.
She's just so personable.
Mm-hmm.
She's so easy to talk to. And I knew when I met her that we had to have her on. It just took almost a year, but we had to have her on.
It's perfect timing. No coincidences, Jon Meyers.
No coincidences at all. And so when, and I agree with you that she's humble. And because we were just coming off of 2 episodes with Emily where we talk about self-doubt and then self-doubt and depression. When is humbleness self-doubt? What's the Venn diagram where they overlap?
Right. Well, I think in her case, which I would love listener feedback, I think in her case is self-doubt would have been when she was asked to submit and she didn't. I think self-doubt would have been she saw other opportunities and she didn't take them. Like, I think self-doubt a lot of times gets in the way of us taking action. And I think humbleness, at least in the case with her, is when people give her praise and she's, like, kind of just like, I don't know if I'm that good, or I don't know if I can do that. And you kind of like said, no, you deserve to be at the table. So I don't know. That's kind of how I see the difference.
And it's not just her. There are a lot of creatives that are like that. Emily uses a quote. I think it's C.S. Lewis. She knows her quote so well, where it's humility isn't thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. It really doesn't have to do with your assessment of your own abilities. Yeah. Like, you can be humble and be great at something, or you can be humble and be terrible at something and still be humble. And
it's interesting. Well, I guess I meant it in the sense of, like, it prevents you from doing something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of times humbleness is you've done it and people are putting praise on you and you're still like, I don't know. I saw this with Carrie Underwood on American Idol's Faith Night, and she sang How Great Thou Art. It was the most amazing, like, performance. And you could just tell when they were, like, showering her with praise, even Carrie Underwood was very, like, I just did what I'm supposed to do. Was very humble in the moment. I don't know. That's what I thought about.
When was the last time Tamiko Nesbitt was compared to Carrie Underwood?
Yeah, we'll have to ask her that.
That's a new. That's a new thing.
Oklahoma.
Oh, so it could happen more.
Right?
It could actually happen more. My takeaway was something that you said, and so you don't know this, but Holy Spirit orchestrated some words to come out of your mouth. So I waited till now to say something. But did we talk about last week how I'm struggling with the first sentence of my novel?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm closer. The first draft's done, and I can't get this first sentence.
Come on, get it out, Jon Meyers.
Maybe if I stop saying I can't get this first sentence, I'll get the first sentence, which that's already occurred to me. But you said, so the first sentence involves the protagonist's name, right? And then which has changed during the process of me writing it. But then you said you gave me you unlocked the door, man, or the Holy Spirit had you unlock the door when you said your editor said giving out someone else gave her that name. Mm-hmm. That solves my first sentence because I have two different versions of this first sentence, which I have to now go write when we're done here. They're versions of this is what we called her when someone gave her this name, and so those words coming.
I lost you for a hot second.
Those words coming out of your mouth or out of your agent's or your editor's mouth, that kind of reified what I need to do, and so it at least gave me a handle on it. So well done. Thank you for being open to the leading and letting those words spill out of you.
Can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jon Meyers.
Yes.
Ah! Okay. Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know how many words is in the longest novel that was ever written?
I thought you were gonna say in the dictionary, because every book is in the dictionary. So
Yeah.
whatever the answer to your question is, it's in the dictionary. The longest novel. Can you tell me how many pages it is?
No, I don't know that answer.
Okay, I'm gonna say, is it more than one book? Is it like a 9-volume set?
No, it just says the longest novel. Well, yeah, it's in multiple volumes because he kept adding to it. He kept like writing and revising.
I'm gonna say
series and volumes. They use volumes and series and longest book. Like,
I'm gonna say 33,235,629.
You're way over. It is 1.2 million words. And it was In the Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust, Proust. I haven't researched it, so I don't know anything about the book. But this is what I found fascinating is he began seriously writing this 1.2 million word book in 1909, and he didn't finish.
He just finished yesterday.
No, he died in 1922, and they had to publish it like after he died. So he literally spent that whole, like, isn't there so many lessons there? Like, you spent writing one thing until you died.
He tried to pull it off the shelf and it fell on him and killed him.
My gosh. Can you imagine 1.2? How many words are in like your fiction book that you're writing, your novel?
Oh, so I don't do word count.
Yeah.
I'm shooting for a specific page number because I want it to be a certain thickness. How weird is that, right?
It is.
Because with me, it's the cereal box, not the cereal. But so I don't have that final answer because I'm still tweaking that. It's funny that you brought this up. I was in a conversation with someone on Twitter who I don't know, and she decided to make her 3-book series a 5-book series because it's just too big to be contained in 3 books. And I told her, well, 7 is the number of completion. Why don't you just make 7 out of them? and she's like, that's a great idea. But she was talking about the word counts of the first 2. And she's in the middle writing 3, and she's like, this is gonna have to be 5 because this one's not. They were like 630,000 words on the first one. The second one was like, I don't know, 380,000 words. They were both like way too. They were like 10. Like
that's like 3.
She's gonna break this record.
Yeah. I can't imagine writing. I mean, my fiction books are around 60,000, and that's on the low end. Like, you're not considered a novel. What is it, 40,000 or above? But also, I'm dyslexic and I can't read long books. So I'm like, if I can't read long books, I can't write long books.
I don't agree with that, by the way. I mean, you're correct. They say 40,000, but I don't agree with that designation because Animal Farm is a novel and it's 30,000 words or 28,000 words, right? But no one calls it a novella.
Mm-hmm.
I got the pink. Remember I told you I wanted the pink copy of
Yeah, did you get that in?
Yeah, but I don't have it on the table.
Oh,
and
so unprepared, Jon Meyers.
And here, I'll get it. Hold on. Tell them more about this book.
I don't know much more about it. Well, it had multiple names. Oh, it was rejected by multiple publishers. So that's interesting. Rejected by multiple publishers. So he just ended up paying to publish it himself, which I didn't even realize like people self-published back in the early 1900s. So that's kind of fascinating. I wonder what he paid to have that self-published.
And they didn't have the internet back then, so they printed them and they sold them out of the back of their horse and buggy carriage.
Can you imagine how thick that book would be?
So here's the pink copy of my favorite book, Trout Fishing in America.
Yes.
And as I said, the first chapter is about this picture. And that's the statue of Benjamin Franklin there.
Oh,
well,
interesting.
How can so in this wrong sized, wrong cover, the first chapter is still about the picture on the cover, and it's not this picture.
So why did they do another cover?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. They put the picture inside the book, but the first chapter is called "The Cover of Trout Fishing in America," so it makes absolutely no sense. But anyway. This book is 28,000 words, and it's a novel. It's not a novella, and it's that thick. So that's a novel, man.
Yeah.
So
makes me feel better.
And it's only 28,000 words. There's a ton of so Animal Farm is that short. I think Fahrenheit 451 is that short. No one calls those novellas. There's a Toni Morrison book that's 30,000 words. So whatever mine winds up, I'm putting a novel on the cover.
Yes, I think you can.
All right. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Mine will not be that big.
Okay.
I want mine to be this big because I want people to be able to put it in their purse and put it in their back pocket if they want, of their cargo pants.
That's funny you say that. Sarah and I are working on something, so I can't talk about it right now, but we will reveal it later. To your point with that,
my book will be so in the 80s, The World According to Garp. If you went to Chicago, if you took the train to Chicago, you could stand on the corner in Chicago and you could see 3 or 4 copies of The World According to Garp by John Irving. And because there hasn't been a phenomenon like that since then, where everyone had that book. Even you didn't see Harry Potter everywhere. You didn't see Twilight. You didn't see those everywhere. You could look and there'd be one sticking out of a lady's purse, and there'd be one some student sitting on a park bench reading it. And like you could see, if you were in a crowd, you could see a handful of copies of The World According to Garp. And the first cover was blue with gold letters. The second one was green with gold letters. And I want my book to be a fashion accessory.
I love it.
So it has to be able to fit in your pocket and stick out of your purse.
I love it. What a great goal.
So you can't talk about your secret project. Are you doing that size?
We haven't determined, but I think I like this size.
And what size is that?
I don't know. You asked me that first.
Yeah. No, so it's for you told me. You measured it and
what did I tell you it was? Do you remember?
No, but I put it on that episode.
Yeah. So I think this will be the size because it's like smaller. They're cute.
Yeah, it was smaller than this. This is 4 1/4 by 7.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely shorter.
All right, cool. Just imagine how thick that guy's book would be if it was. I think you said 3 by 5. I think.
Yeah. The bell tells me that is a reminder for everybody to subscribe to the podcast.
Yes.
Leave us a star rating and review so others can find us.
Yes.
So appreciative.
Like and subscribe. Smash the button.
Yeah.
Hey, tell you what. So the first 100 people to subscribe, we'll give them 3 months free. How about that?
Hey, I love that.
You can watch this for free for the next 3 months.
Okay, very
no
good.
Promises after that, but
what a
there
gift!
You go.
What a gift! Next is my segment, which I developed on my first episode, and it's called "What the Bee."
What the bee?
What the bee? So, what book.
I didn't know it was. Wait, I didn't know it was what the bee. I just thought it was what the bee.
Whatever. It depends what mood we're in. You know, what the
Oh.
bee. So what book are you reading, Jon Meyers?
Have you seen those things where, and maybe you and your husband have one? So it's like a little stuffed animal. It's an octopus or something. If you're in a good mood, it's a smiley face, and then if you're in a bad mood, you turn it over and it's like I need some space. It's a sad face.
No, I haven't seen that.
And then so you've said, depending on how you say what the bee, that's your version of the octopus. I'll know if you're in a good mood or a bad mood.
Okay.
Too bad it's like the second to the last segment. Some fun. That's a great time for me to find out. So since you made me read a book this last week, like I got time to read a book, I reread Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. Because why? I
Sure.
bet you can guess. No,
Oh.
because it has my favorite first sentence of all time.
Which
All
is-
time. Of all time. It has the best first sentence. I reread it every year. I try to reread it every year on January 1st to start the year out right. And so I'm an undisclosed age as well, but sometimes I don't get to it till like the second week in January or whatever. But I try to read it on the 1st, and every year I have seen something in it. It's like, you know how they say the Bible's the only book that reads you. I have found something I've never seen before in it every year.
Yeah, that's
Like,
cool.
That's crazy that this small book, I would say it's a novel, is that effective and is that powerful. So I'm going to read you the first paragraph, not just the first sentence.
Okay.
Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. That's the first sentence. That is the perfect first sentence. And there's a picture to illustrate it of him coming down the stairs. Bump, bump, bump on his head. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping his head for a moment and think of it. But then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is, at the bottom, and ready to be introduced to you, Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, I don't think I've ever read Winnie the Pooh.
What a great introduction. You know what kind of book this is going to be, just from the first paragraph. And it's very conflicting because it does what I'm not a poet, but when I've written poetry or in my prose, in the novel I started that and didn't finish, and then on this novel, I implicate you. Like I implicate the reader. And I'm going to read this next, also on the first page. By the way, the next paragraph starts, when I first heard his name, I said, just as you're going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. When I first heard his name, how is that for an ongoing theme? So then they talk about the name Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Why does it have the in the middle of it? And then the narrator, whoever it is of this book, because who is it? They're on the journey, but they're not the owl. They're not Christopher Robin. They're not the dad. Who's this person walking around with these guys? He tells you. So Christopher Robin says, don't you understand the and the Winnie the Pooh? And then it says, ah, yes, now I do, I said quickly, and I hope you do too, because that's all the explanation you're going to get. That's what the narrator tells you. You're not like, don't come looking at me for more. That's all I'm going to tell you. And that's what my prose sounds like. And so I don't know if I subliminally have absorbed that over the years, but that's how I write articles. That's how I write poetry. That's how I write prose. It's not how I write my screenplays. I implicate you. But so who's this I? And there's actually two Christopher Robins, right? There's the Christopher Robin in the book, but then A.A. Milne himself is reading stories to a real Christopher Robin, and the real Christopher Robin appears in the book sometimes, not the character Christopher Robin. And then so is the narrator A.A. Milne? Not really, because A.A. Milne's reading this book to his son. It's so complicated. You didn't know you were gonna be wading into those waters, did you?
No, I had no idea. Well, this is it kind of, what the bee, so, what's the book and whatever else you want to say.
There you go. What's your book?
Okay, so I'm reading a book, but I have to start with the book that he wrote before so people know, because I would recommend. So I read, when it came out, Saved, A War Reporter's Mission to Make It Home by Benjamin Hall.
Wow.
Okay, that was the book. It became a New York Times bestseller. There, you can see that. And an incredible story. He was in a war correspondent in Ukraine. His car was blown up. I believe 2 people were killed in his car. He was blasted away. I mean, a true miracle. I mean, just read the story. And the story, like, I love reading stories like this, because if you're ever having a bad day or like, woe is me, and then I can think of Benjamin Hall and go, oh yeah, I don't have it that bad. But then he came out with another book, which follows like after his rehabilitation and going back home, called Resolute, that you can see. And so this is the one that I'm reading right now. And as you can see, he lost both of his legs in that. So it's fabulous. And this one is how we humans keep finding ways to beat the toughest odds. And it's really good. So that's what I'm reading this week.
My neighbor has no legs. My next door neighbor. I don't know how she lost her legs. Good. That was fun.
Yeah, cool. That was What the Bee. Okay, we have the final act. I left the prize. I left the prize over at my desk.
All right, I'll sing them a song while you go get the prize.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So I have
Midnight and the kitties are sleeping. I can't say more than 8 words or we have to pay royalties. Look at those beautiful pillows. Look at all those books on the back of the shelf. It must be a really big prize. At least it's only on the other desk and not in the car.
Okay.
I like how we both left the episode in this one. Last time only I left the episode.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, isn't this a cute little like pillow?
Many books, so little time. Yeah. Oh, so many books. It looks like a book. It does look like a book.
So what you're winning, this is based off of, before we started the call, I think you were showing me all your little to-do list. And when I had a professional organizing business, I had these created, and they were little to-do lists, multiple pages. Wow. I had like 1,000 of them. And the first thing said, get organized. So it'd remind people like, get organized. But then it had all my contact information on it. But
okay,
it's old.
I'll blur that out because you just showed it on your phone number.
It doesn't matter because it's all old. I don't have that phone number, and I don't have that email address, and I don't have that website. So I don't care. Somebody, you call it and you're not going to get me. So that's the prize that you're going to win.
All right, viewers, call that number and ask for the world famous Stephanie L. Jones.
Okay, so we are doing a book smarts trivia. There are 10 questions, and you get 1 point for each answer that you get correct. And to win, you have to get at least 7 correct, because that's 70%. And if you get below 7, you have failed the game. Okay, ready?
I hate trivia.
Hey, don't ask me to do a game. Okay, I'm going to give you a famous line in a book, and you have to tell me the book and the author. No
wagering, people at home, because this is, first of all, we don't believe in gambling. Second of all, this will be an easy one because I'm going to have 0 out of 10.
No, you got to have a little faith in yourself.
I don't know
Okay.
trivia.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of
A
times.
Tale of Two Cities.
Finish this title. Anne of Green.
Gables.
Yes. Okay, you're 2 for 2. Who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia series?
C.S. Lewis.
Look at you. You're doing way better than you thought. Okay.
In a previous episode, Emily had to call the baby races, and these babies from North Carolina were racing against each other like a horse race. And
Okay.
she had to name all the babies, and she named one of them Anna of Green Gables, or Anne of Green Gables.
Find that on another episode. Okay. You have to name in 5 seconds 2 famous mystery authors.
You've taken stop. I got to comment first before you start the counting. You've taken the thing I hate the most, trivia, and added a second thing that I hate is like I can't take a time test. Like I can do well on a test if I have my own time, and I can even get it done in 2 hours if it's a 2-hour test. But if there's a time clock, I can't do it. So now you've added that layer to it. Fiona Leach is one of them. And mystery, Ellery Queen.
Cool. Good job. Okay, so you got another one. Book to movie, which this pulls from our last episode. Which Dr. Seuss book features a character trying to convince others to eat an unusual breakfast?
Horton Eats a Who. No. Green Eggs and Ham.
Yes. You're 5 for 5. Okay, true or false?
The Grinch
J.K.
Who Ate
Rowling-
Christmas.
What?
The Grinch Who Ate Christmas.
No. J.K. Rowling used a pen name, Robert Galbraith, for her mystery novels. True or false?
I don't know.
True or false? You got 50% chance.
Fru. Trolls.
T or F, Jon Meyers?
That reminds me of the Tasty Freeze. T and F. Do you remember those guys? They were little ice cream guys, and one was T and one was F. I don't know. True.
Oh, you got it right. One more and you win. You're 6 for 6. In the secret garden, what is the secret inside the garden?
I can't. This is a family show. We cannot talk about this. What are you trying to do? Get me in trouble.
No.
I don't know. A skeleton is buried in the garden.
No, this is very sweet. It's a locked hidden garden that becomes alive again with care and love. That was very family friendly. You got that one wrong, though. Okay, you should get this one right.
You took joy in me getting it wrong.
I know. What 2 animals are often first mentioned when talking about Noah's Ark?
Alligators and geese.
Dove and raven.
Dove and what?
A raven?
Raven. Because a raven will feed you.
Okay.
Did you know that?
Kidlet fun. No, but it's not surprising.
A raven will bring you food. But there, you have a responsibility. If like people that are like, God will provide, like, but you have to get up off the couch and make your own sandwich, right? A raven is not going to come, open the refrigerator door, and go get the salami out and fly it over to you on the couch. You have a responsibility in that equation.
I agree with that. Okay, question 9. What color is Clifford the Big Red Dog? Oh,
Red, I win.
the last one, and you already mentioned one of these books. I know, sorry. I always thought it was Clifford the Big Red Dog, but it's Clifford the Big Dog.
Oh, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the Berenstain Bears.
In
What's that called?
Yeah, I love those books. I wish I would have
I know, but
invented
what's
it.
that thing where you think like the Monopoly guy has a monocle, but he really doesn't have the
Right.
Mandela effect. That's what that is.
Oh, okay. Learn something new. Last question. In 5 seconds, name a
Oh my
book that
gosh.
has a number in the title. You said this one earlier.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah. So you got an 80%.
See?
You passed. I'll
Not
send you a to-do
so,
list.
so now, and I like, you don't know this, as a college professor, I don't like grades. I only grade because the university requires me to grade. I don't think grades are motivators. And so getting an 80% is a demotivator to me. I would rather be praised for how well I did and not hear a number applied to it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
intrinsically
Okay.
motivated. I am not extrinsically motivated.
Well, I didn't have a way to know if you won or not, so I did the numbers.
Cool.
Okay.
I survived the first trivia test.
Mm-hmm. More to come with Stephanie's games.
Next week, Emily had no rules other than she wouldn't eat on camera. Like, so I can't make you eat anything on camera. But
that's a good rule. That's a good rule.
I think that's a fair rule. All right, cool.
We
couldn't have done it without you.